Hi, thank you for having me. My name's Melanie Pandich. I'm the Disaster Program Manager at the Southern Tier Chapter of the Red Cross. And I started with the Red Cross about 4 years ago as a volunteer, and now I am staff for the past 3 years. And I started in preparedness, and now I'm the Disaster Program Manager.
Great.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Sergenvir, or Sam for short. I am currently the educational chair of the American Red Cross Club here at Binghamton University. I got involved with the Red Cross Club 3 semesters ago when after I transferred in. I went to a few meetings. I loved what they did. They were always involved on campus, always hosting blood drives, always volunteering, and I really wanted to be a part of it, so I applied for an e-board position. And last semester I was a volunteer coordinator, and this semester I'm the educational chair.
Oh, great. Okay, so we got two volunteer coordinators here, and or one past and one current. And so I know this is kind of a special month for the American Red Cross, right?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
March is known as American Red Cross Month. So we call it March is Red Cross Month, and we do all sorts of things. We try to emphasize our programs, let people know everything that we provide in the community. We have 5 lines of service, so we find it important to make sure people know about that. Very often they remember 2 things, the disaster response and the blood drives, but there are other things we do as well that we find important to get out there.
Awesome. And I'm going to look forward to getting into that. But I thought before we kind of got into current stuff, I'm curious, what's up with the history of the American Red Cross? I don't really know much about how it came to be.
So the history of the Red Cross is actually really interesting, especially for the local area. The Red Cross was founded in 1881 by Clara Barton after the Civil War and her experiences with that. And actually, the first chapter of the American Red Cross is in Dansville. And so that was the first chapter founded in the Red Cross. It's about 2 hours west of here. It's just south of Rochester, New York. And we have a number of other of the initial chapters that were founded located right here in upstate New York. So the Red Cross's history is very special to New York State.
Yeah, close to home and really spread out from there. And how is the history of the Red Cross and how has it manifested itself or turned into the mission that is today of the American Red Cross? Can you explain to me?
Sure, the mission of the Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. And so really we are a organization that is based on volunteerism. Over 94% of us are volunteers, and they're the ones doing the hard work on the ground. And so we also greatly depend on the stewardship of our donors in the programs that we provide. So by combining those two really powerful forces, we are able to help people in the face of emergencies.
Great. And so you said that the Red Cross started just a couple hours from here, but I know you two represent a chapter very, very close to this station. Can you tell me where you're actually located? And then Sam, I don't know if you guys have like an office on campus, or maybe you can talk to me about how people can learn more or kind of get in touch with the local Binghamton University chapter.
So the local chapter of the Red Cross covers 4 counties. It covers Broome, Tioga, Tompkins, and Shenango counties. And our chapter office is located right here in Broome County on 620 East Main Street, Endicott, New York. And we also have another office in Tompkins County on Danby Road.
Great.
So we don't have an office, but we do have bi-weekly meetings where we disperse information to our members and provide volunteer opportunities. Some of our volunteer opportunities include participating in a soup kitchen, volunteering at a blood drive, and many more. Some big events we do are like a fundraising for charities, and the biggest one we currently do is holding monthly blood drives around campus. You've probably seen signs around them. That's us. We collaborate with the New York State Red Cross as well, and we provide a large percentage of the blood to the blood drives.
And I found out about the Binghamton University chapter on Be Engaged. I was scouring through that, and I found an email address there. But do you have a website or any other contact information, or is the best way really to get in touch with you guys through Be Engaged?
Yeah, so unfortunately we don't have a website yet, but the email is definitely a great way to contact us. And we also post our bi-weekly meetings on Beeline. So definitely check us out there, and it would be great to have people come through to our meetings.
Yeah, awesome. So, all right, I think we're going to kind of transition now into a little bit about what the American Red Cross does. And so, when I think American Red Cross, and I don't mean to generalize, but myself and maybe a lot of other people, I immediately think blood drive. And that's like kind of it. I'm like American Red Cross equals blood drive. But I know that the organization does so much more. And so, here's a stat I found, and we can talk about it, and then you can tell me everything that the American Red Cross does. But I found out that it collects and supplies roughly 40% of the blood and blood products used in our country. I mean, that's incredible. So, can you tell me a little bit about blood drives, and then we'll move off to the other things?
Absolutely. So that's a true statistic there. 40% of the supply is provided by the Red Cross, which means that it's donated blood. So it comes from the generosity of the American people giving their blood for free just so they can help save lives. There are paid organizations that will pay you for blood, and they here in New York as well. But as you can see, there is something there. People want to give to help people. They don't care about the profit. So that is a powerful statistic. Since one organization can supply roughly almost half of it, and there's about 7 total organizations, I believe, in the United States that do blood. So if you look at that, we still provide the most out of any of those. So it's quite an amazing statistic, and I have to thank all of our donors for that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's an incredible thing. And I mean, putting together a blood drive, Sam, you might be able to speak to this from the college perspective, but how does it come to fruition? I mean, like, can I host a blood drive at my house, or like, do I need to be out in public at like a legit location? How does it work?
So the way our club sets it up is we contact the Red Cross and our blood service coordinator, Vika. She's constant contact with the person in charge of it, and it comes to fruition a lot through advertising. So around campus, we always put up signs about when the blood drive is going to happen. We're always advertising on Beeline and through different listservs. Another thing we do is tabling events. So we always table in the old Union Hall. I mean, not the old Union Hall, the Tillman lobby and the marketplace. Over there, we sign people up for appointments, and so they know that they have a spot reserved for the blood drive.
And where do the blood drives typically take place?
A lot of times it happens in the old Union Hall or in the Mandela Room.
Got it. And then as far as from a community perspective, or how does it come to fruition out there?
Much in the same way, actually. So if anybody wanted to run a blood drive, which some people might do in honor of somebody who's passed or just because they want to run a blood drive, they would contact the local Red Cross. We would get you in touch with Teresa Blank, who is our account manager. She would come out and survey the area that you had in mind or work with you to find an area that they could use. There are some requirements that they have to meet. The FDA plays a large part in where we can.
So my
and
house
can't.
is out. Okay.
Yeah, your house will be out. But anybody who wanted to run a blood drive, I did it myself when I was at SUNY Broome. We just contacted Teresa Blank, and from there we were able to set up a blood drive, much like the BU club does as well.
And let's say that I want to donate blood, but there's not a drive around me, or maybe I don't have like access to a vehicle to get to a drive that may be far away. What can I do? Do I just need to wait?
So there is in Johnson City, we have the blood center. So if you had a vehicle or it's on the bus route, you could go to the Johnson City Blood Center and donate there. It's open 6 days a week. I think it's closed on Fridays, if I recall correctly. And I think it's open from 7 to about 5, but I could, if anybody has questions, they could call the local chapter. We'd be happy to help them with that. But then you can also call 1-800-RED-CROSS. They can find a blood drive in the area, or you can go to redcross.org, and there's a list of the local blood drives there as well.
Excellent. And so I thought this was cool. While I was doing research for this interview, I learned that the Red Cross has been an integral part of research and testing to protect the safety of blood supply. Can you explain to me what that means?
Yeah, so that's a great point. And I just learned recently that we actually have 7 to 8 research facilities across America working on testing blood, but also working on disease prevention and alleviation. Working to cure prostate cancer, other sorts of cancer. There's a lot of research going into what blood can do to help the human body. And one of the amazing things they're working on, and if they could figure it out, synthetic blood. If we were able to actually create synthetic blood, we would never have that urgent need because we could manufacture it. So those are just some of the things that the Red Cross is working on behind the scenes.
How many
And
years away until you think we get that? That's pretty cool.
I would love to say it would happen this year, but I don't know.
Okay. So, Melanie, I guess this is probably going to throw it to you with this one. In terms of disaster relief, I heard that the American Red Cross responds to an emergency every 8 seconds. I mean, that is quite a feat. How do you accomplish that?
Largely in part by our volunteers. Our volunteer workforce is the number one resource we have in terms of responding to emergencies and disasters. We do a lot of readiness with our workforce as far as positioning resources ahead of emergencies and making sure that we have a well-trained workforce that's ready to respond when disasters happen.
And what do you think, or what would you say the most common kind of disaster is that you end up responding to?
So the most common disaster that we respond to is definitely home fires. Home fire does occur one every 8 seconds. So that is the most common disaster we respond to. And when that happens, we do provide things like we focus on people's core needs. So we focus on, do they have a place to stay? Do they have a way to get food? How are they going to clothe themselves? Things like that. So we provide assistance for that. We also have volunteers that are health services and mental health services trained. So we're prepared to treat the person as a whole and focus on their whole being and their whole needs.
And you were talking, or Sam and I were talking to you about this before, that you have this service with fire alarms that is, it's super cool. I don't want to spoil it, so I'll let you tell everybody the good news.
Sure. So in addition to responding to home fires, we have a core mission to help prevent home fires. So we have a program where we are aiming to reduce fire deaths and injuries by 25% in 5 years, and that's called the Home Fire Campaign. And anyone who is in need of a smoke alarm can contact their local Red Cross, no matter where they are in the country, and the Red Cross will come and help test their existing alarms, install alarms that are needed in their house, and provide some basic fire safety education. It takes less than 20 minutes for this appointment, and it truly does save lives, and it's saved lives locally here in New York State.
And you were saying that this isn't necessarily a need-based service. I mean, it is need-based in the essence that you probably would need a fire alarm, right? But you can be anyone, right? And you can just call and they'll come and they'll provide a fire alarm for you. That's all you have to provide to them?
Absolutely. Anybody can make the call, and the Red Cross will schedule an appointment to come out, test their existing alarms, and provide additional alarms needed, up to 3 alarms per household.
Wow. Okay. So another area that I saw the American Red Cross deals with is commitment to America's military and veteran families. And I understand that the American Red Cross helps families and military members prepare for, cope with, and respond to the challenges of military service. So in what ways do you do this?
Yeah, that's called our Service to the Armed Forces program, and it does indeed. We do have coping with disasters. Coping with deployments, rather, for servicemen and women and their families. So we hold these sessions throughout different months, and we just encourage anybody who's either in the military or related to somebody in the military to attend these. It helps them learn how to cope with the deployments, what to expect when you come back. We also have mental health volunteers as well who can work with those coming back to just make sure that they're okay and that everything is copacetic with them. Actually, the Service to the Armed Forces is the original program of the American Red Cross. Clara Barton saw injured men and men on the field at the time and thought, I don't care who they are, what side they are on, they need help, and I'm going to help them. So at a time when women were not allowed on the battlefield, she said, I'm doing it anyway. So amazing woman, and that's how we started, actually. It was a Service to the Armed Forces.
Wow. Okay. All right. And then you also do a lot of things surrounding health and safety training and education. What kind of trainings does the American Red Cross offer?
That's another one of our lines of service, which is called Public Health and Safety Services. So that started out a lot with swimming lessons and lifeguard training. But we do first aid, CPR, AED. We encourage all of our volunteers to get CPR trained. And in fact, if you are a volunteer with us for 6 months and have have a few hours of volunteering under your belt, we will pay for your CPR class because we encourage, again, all of our volunteers to be CPR certified. And if anybody wanted to look for a class in their area, they could go to, of course, redcross.org. There is a list of the classes available on there, as well as calling the local chapter or calling 1-800-RED Cross could also find a local class being offered.
And how long do these CPR certifications last?
Our CPR certifications, like most, last 2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah, and they're
Okay.
recerted.
And Sam, as an e-board member or, as an affiliate through the university, are you CPR trained?
Yeah, I'm actually an EMT.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Taking it up a notch. All right. So can you tell me a little bit? It's been a while. I took like a CPR class in college, but I remember the dummy and the, whatever. But can you explain to me kind of what it's like now? Walk me through the process.
Well, so it only takes a few hours out of your day. You go in there and they teach you some basic skills. The one I took was CPR and BLS, which stands for Basic Life Support. So I was taught on how to ventilate someone who is unconscious, and how to provide CPR on someone that isn't responding.
Did they offer this class here on campus, or was this out in the community?
This is actually back home in Long Island.
Oh, okay, gotcha. But these skills are all transferable throughout the nation, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So in terms of international relief and assistance, I saw that the American Red Cross has vaccinated 1.1 billion children. This is incredible. What kind of vaccinations do you provide?
So the we call it Vaccinating a Village is the program that we use, especially with our Red Cross clubs. But the disease that we are looking to eradicate is measles. So we've vaccinated 1.1 billion children of measles so far. And what we do, actually, the Binghamton University Red Cross Club has experience with this. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but they had a Vaccinate a Village.
We had a banquet.
There we go, yes. And they raised over $1,000, I believe, toward this Vaccinating a Village. So this local, community here supported that program.
Wow. And so do you just identify an area that's of need and then you kind of pool your resources? It sounds like you probably would get a lot of volunteers together and kind of organize that effort here and then go out internationally and help out?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome. That's awesome. So Sam, I want to kind of throw it to you now for a little bit to talk about the American Red Cross on Binghamton University's campus. I was really excited to see that it was on here, and I kind of wanted to know, and I don't know if you guys have met before, I can't tell, the chemistry is palpable, but have you been in connection before? How closely are these two organizations?
So our organizations are pretty close. We are student run, so in that factor we are independent, but we do work with the Red Cross the Red Cross to organize blood drives, which is the main thing we work with them with. So every month we are in contact with the Red Cross, and we have them come down. We reserve a room. We advertise, and they come in. And usually, a lot of students donate blood. Usually, it's past capacity as well.
Past capacity. Past capacity. At that point, you don't ever turn anyone away, do you?
Unfortunately, sometimes we have to, unless they have an appointment.
Wow, just because you don't have enough supplies to safely carry it? Is that the issue? The
issue is this is like an issue of the amount of people that are there that are trained to take the blood there.
Okay.
And also about the space that we have. Occasionally we can't get the Mandela room, so we have to work with the old Union Hall, which is a little smaller.
Okay. And when you call the local Red Cross or you call the Red Cross to organize a blood drive, what goes into it on this end? Let's say, hypothetically, Sam calls you guys up and we're like, hey, I want to do a blood drive at the Mandela room next month. What happens on your end after you receive that call?
Well, when I get that call, and I have gotten that call, I take through information, and then I call my coworker, Teresa, and she reaches out to them because she does all of that. But I know some of what she does is she does meet with them, discuss all the requirements for it, looks at the space. I believe you have to have 1,000 square feet of open space. There are I don't know all the requirements, but there are certain things that you have to meet. So unfortunately, I don't know those, but Teresa is fantastic at organizing those.
Okay, and you guys bring in the staff, the volunteers, and basically with the assistance of the club here on campus, you pull off this incredible event.
Absolutely, and going on to that, the question you just mentioned or asked earlier, the reason we would ever have to turn somebody down would be because we only have so many staff. It takes so long for them to donate, and of course, we can't keep the staff there all day. They have a set hour, so once we meet our capacity for that blood drive, we would unfortunately have to sign them up for a different one.
Sure. And let's say a student were to walk in at 3 p.m. on a Friday. How long do you think it would take for them to give blood and get out of there?
Usually I would say the wait time, including giving the blood and getting out of there, would be around an hour,
Okay.
like 40 minutes to an hour.
Okay. Fill out some paperwork, kind of get settled, and then do it, or what's the process typically?
Well, actually, we've changed it a little bit. We tried to make it more streamlined. So now you can download an app. You can do all your health history check-in before. And when you arrive, I think it's called Ready Pass or Rapid Pass? Rapid Pass, that's it. You show up with your Rapid Pass, they literally scan it on your phone, it submits it into the computer, and you're good to go. They'll call your name, as it comes to your turn. So we've tried to streamline it so people aren't sitting there and waiting and spending an hour or an hour and a half at, donating blood.
Okay. And Sam, how can they join your club? Who should they contact? And is it too late to join right now for this semester, or what's the process like?
Oh, it's definitely not too late. We have bi-weekly meetings, and we always advertise them on Beeline. They're usually held in the student wing, and we always welcome new members to come and check out the club to see how it's like. We do have some requirements of becoming an active member. They need to attend 3 general body meetings and attend at least 3 volunteer events. So based off the active membership, then they can also go a step further and become an e-board member.
Okay. And are you looking forward after you graduate? Are you hoping to transfer some of these skills into a career, or what do you see yourself doing after this?
Of course. So I've always been interested in the health-related fields. I'm actually planning to go to med school after this.
Congratulations. And what would you say, Sam, the most rewarding part of being involved with the American Red Cross has been or is?
The most rewarding thing I would say is just seeing the look on people's faces. For example, when you go into a soup kitchen and you serve someone food, it's inconceivable on how they react.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Zachariah, what about you?
Well, with my job, I'm kind of like human resources for volunteers, so I do a lot of recruiting. I'm out in the community trying to get more volunteers and to spread our mission. So honestly, the most rewarding part for me is to get other people on board to help volunteer, because it just magnifies how much work we do. So I enjoy watching the volunteers go out and the satisfaction on their faces when they've completed something like a fire or a home fire install or something like that. It's great.
And what techniques do you use to recruit volunteers within the community?
A lot of just a lot of outreach. We reach out to social groups like Rotary clubs and Elks clubs. We do presentations. We're doing a new initiative. We're starting in Shenango County, and then we'll eventually bring it to Broome, where we're bringing out our emergency response vehicle. We call it an ERV. We bring out our ERV into the community. We set up a little tabling event, and we just are visible for the day so people can see the Red Cross, stop by and ask questions. So we're always looking for new recruitment ideas. So if anybody wants to join the Red Cross in that volunteer capacity, we're always looking for that. But if anybody has questions or wants to volunteer, they can reach out to me at 607-785-7207. I realize we mentioned a lot of things today, but didn't tell you how to contact us. So if anybody has any questions, that is our office number at Endicott. Again, that's 607-785-7207. We'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. And what about you, Melanie?
For me, the most rewarding part about being involved with the Red Cross is working with the volunteers and empowering them to be able to help people in their greatest time of need. So whether it's somebody who just responded to somebody's home fire, or somebody who's installed a smoke alarm in someone's house, or somebody who helped to educate youth or the general public about how to be prepared ahead of emergencies and how they happen, I just really enjoy supporting our volunteers in that capacity and helping them to be able to do those services out in the community.
And is there one area in which you say you could need more volunteers at this point? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm curious. I haven't volunteered for the American Red Cross. I'd like to now because this sounds wonderful. But when you throw in your application or when you call and inquire about that, are you kind of directed towards a certain area, or are you cross-trained for all of these?
So I guess I should answer that question. So again, in volunteer services, we onboard all of our volunteers. So whenever a volunteer comes on, they do an online application at redcross.org/volunteer. They finish that, and then we call them and we do a screening with them. And we just find out what their interests are, what their skills are. And from there, we look at all of the jobs we have, and we have countless jobs to be done. And we just try to see if they have an interest, we'll move them toward that. If they don't, we'll try to find something that we think they might be interested in. I wouldn't say that there's anything that's maybe more in need than another. I guess if I did, it would have to be disaster since Melanie's sitting next to me. We always need local disaster action team volunteers to go out at those house fires because they happen in the dead of night and they happen all the time. So we really want a core base of those volunteers. And then, of course, when a large disaster happens here, like a flood, they can turn into that role and help locally in those kind of things. So we're always looking for disaster volunteers. But again, service to the armed forces, blood volunteers, I mean, every line of service needs it. So.
Okay, great. And before we head out, I thought I would give you guys a chance kind of to promote or plug any upcoming events, blood drives, or is there anything you want the listeners to know before we get out of here? The mic is yours.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a lot of volunteer events coming up. For example, we have a couple of blood drives coming up before the semester ends. We have a soup kitchen coming up. We have our bi-weekly meeting coming up this Thursday. And definitely keep an eye out for on Beeline and look for us. And we would like to see anyone there.
And this bi-weekly meeting, or this bi-monthly meeting, sorry, that's coming up on Thursday, where and when is that meeting?
It's generally in the student wing, but it's dependent on what room is available.
Okay. And you guys in the community, anything coming up necessarily that you want to promote?
Well, I'll just promote that we are working with Binghamton University for an alternative spring break. So if anybody's staying here for spring break, talk to Tom Lampy or that department and see if you can get in on the alternative spring break. We're actually going to be doing a canvassing for the home fire preparedness campaign locally. So firsthand experience there.
Okay, awesome. Anything for you, Melanie?
So if anybody is interested in receiving a smoke alarm, they could call the 607-785-7207 phone number that Zachariah gave. Also, if you're interested in volunteering with disaster services, we have positions that you wouldn't even think of that don't even involve responding to a disaster, but helping to support on the administrative and back end too. Like we have people who do human resources type things for our disaster volunteers. So we're always in need of a variety of skill sets and interests. And then lastly, our preparedness programs. We offer free preparedness training out in the community. So if anybody's organization or group is interested in receiving a presentation, we would love to come out and do presentations about how to be prepared ahead of emergencies.
And then one final thing I would like to say is just that if you do start your volunteer training with us or you come on in some capacity and then you go home to another state or even another country around the world, the Red Cross is big on universality. So wherever you go, they have the same programs. So the training you get here, even if you don't complete it, transfers with you to your home chapter. So if you're thinking that you're going to be going back home this summer, but you want to start your training now, you can join us now, and you could stay with us, or you could transfer to your home chapter. So.
Wow. Okay. So many great opportunities and ways to get involved. And like you said, Melanie, no matter your skill set, even if you don't fancy yourself a firefighter, there's a place for you at the American Red Cross. So that just about does it. But I want to thank you, Zachariah, Melanie, and Sam for coming on the show today to share with us all the wonderful and meaningful work that the American Red Cross does. Join me next week. We're going to be talking about recreation, fitness, and exercise is medicine. We'll break down what that means with the Assistant Director for Fitness and Wellness, Jenna Moore, here at Binghamton University. It's Emma Hunter heading out, and I will see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. for the Weekday Wellness Update here on WHRW.